e te iwi.
The undisputed
Kia ora e te iwi and welcome to this special episode of UFC on Sky. April 25th, ANZAC Day, is a time where we remember both our Australian and New Zealand soldiers who served in the war. But for UFC light heavyweight Navajo Stirling, the connection is a lot stronger. A descendant of the 28th Māori Battalion, Navajo's great-grandfather was part of one of the most decorated infantries of World War II. Now, as Navajo prepares for UFC 315 and ANZAC Day draws upon us once again, he is inspired by his unique whānau lineage.
ANZAC Day is important in my family because my great-grandfather, Paul Wahawa Stirling, was part of the 28th Māori Battalion. My father was in the army as well, small part and that we're proud of, and yeah, we pay remembrance to him as he had served. I feel proud, you know, knowing that I come from that lineage, and for me, like just representing an MMA, you know, and carrying on that fighting spirit, being able to represent New Zealand in the ANZACs, you know, makes me proud to represent my family name on the world stage.
ANZAC stands for Australia New Zealand Army Corps, and it represents when Aussies and Kiwis served side by side in the biggest world wars in history. On April 25th, 1915, our ANZAC soldiers joined their allies in the Great War in Gallipoli. The date, now known as ANZAC Day, is a reminder of those who were lost and honours returned servicemen and women. Of the 3,600 Māori who left for World War II, 649 died, 1,712 were wounded, and 267 were either taken prisoner or missing.
I kind of figured out late that he'd been in the battalion, and just kind of going through my own like sort of search and find more about my ancestors and stuff, because I find that very interesting, you know, wanting to know where I come from and who's been around before me, and they held that very true to themselves. That's quite big in our families. Yeah, it's amazing, you know, to just kind of know that this is what they were doing in times before us.
For Wahawaha Stirling, who enlisted at the tender age of 14 years old, his return home was pivotal for the generations to come.
I think he'd come home and was quite decorated in Lincoln University, became a very big name down in Christchurch, was where like my family kind of come from as well. Eugene, our coach, you know, he's big on very like driving that ANZAC spirit, and almost like that feeling of going to war, you know, like when we leave our loved ones home, we leave our families and things just to go to training and just to prepare ourselves to, yeah, essentially go to war in a lighter sense. We really hone in on that mindset and the sacrifices and beliefs, you know, that you have to have in yourself. You know, it's just like how they were, you know, had to do the same. For us, we kind of tap into that same mindset, and we go out and go to war, and yeah, like putting it all on the line.
ANZAC Day commemorations have grown into a great sporting rivalry between our two nations. But for mixed martial arts, despite massive clashes inside the cage, outside of it, the ANZAC spirit lives on.
In this gym, the ANZAC spirit and the ANZAC theme is big. We work very closely with the Aussies, a lot of young Aussie fighters coming over here. Their families come over here and visit, and we're very tight with the ANZACs here. And then obviously we have our connection with Volk and a few Australian fighters over there. So the ANZAC spirit in this gym's very important, and the ANZAC spirit's like very unique, right? It's a funny one. Like, we love being together, but we also like love ribbing each other too. There's that rivalry's always there as well, but I think that's what makes it so great. I still, I still don't like losing to an Australian. I mean, I can lose to an American maybe, but when you lose to an Australian, it still stings a little deeper. But that's what makes it so great, and I think that's why the bond between the ANZACs is so strong.
Kiwi and Aussie UFC fighters coming together and reclaiming the name ANZAC, where fighters from both sides of the Tasman Sea would once again represent one formidable army to the world.
We have history in our ancestry, but also another thing that ties us together is like the rise of MMA in this region, not just in New Zealand but Australia as well. It's just been exponential in the last few years. You know, you've had Robert, Israel, Volk, you're going to have Jack, Magdalena, all things going well. What you got to understand is we are a very small region in terms of the MMA landscape. We're tiny. What we typically do in our region, New Zealand and Australia, is we try and bat well above our weight. And it's kind of never previously happened in MMA, but that's what's happening. And we're in the midst of that now. Now we're established as a powerhouse region in MMA. And like if this region gets guys in the top 15 regularly, we're not to be taken lightly. We're a powerhouse now. We're not just a forgotten region at the bottom of the world.
Kia whakatōmuri te haere whakamua. I walk backwards into the future, my eyes fixed on my past. Rongo te hengia Navajo Stirling will walk into his own battle come UFC 315, channeling the courage and bravery of his tupuna before him.
Training has just been grueling inside and out, day in and day out in the gym. It gives me like a lot of motivation, and going through that discipline and that pain and suffering, just being grateful for that, being that we can, coming from my culture of Māori. I fought my way, it's tooth and nail to get to the world stage right here in Aotearoa, and to finally put it on and do all of that. It's, I hold that true to me when I go into the cage.
It comes from being down the bottom of the world, where no one knows us. We don't have all the resources, we don't have all the money, we don't have all the finances, we don't have any of the things that they have in America and Russia and these bigger teams. We take what we can, and that's our spirit, our heart, our intellectual property, and we try and develop that, and that's how we compete. We compete by being resourceful, we compete by having that number 8 wild attitude, and just putting it together and just doing the good old Kiwi Aussie thing and getting on with it.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
Kei wari wari tātou.